Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I'd like to show you how I made this card. This card is very similar to one that I was given in a swap with some demonstrators here in Denver, and I just fell in love with this, and it was done by Kelly Needham. Needham. And Kelly is very talented stamper and somebody who really understands color really well. And so she did this one, and mine is very similar. My colors are probably a little bit more saturated. I did a little smaller piece here, but other than that and a few little embellishments that I put on, it's pretty much the same card. And I just loved the colors in this, and it was so much fun to do. I'll just show you. It's actually pretty simple card too. I'm using a card base of Coastal Cabana, 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. And then I'm using Very Vanilla. So I need a panel for the inside. I need a panel for the front. So my inside piece is 4 by 5 1/4. This piece is 5 1/2 by 2 inches. Then we need a piece of silver, which I still have to cut, that is 5 1/2 by 2 1/4 to rim this on both sides. Then we need a piece of scrap of both Very Vanilla and Highland Heather to cut the pieces out for the sentiment. And I've already cut my Highland Heather piece out. I used the Starburst punch for the Highland Heather, and for the Very Vanilla piece I'm using a 2-inch punch. So we'll just go ahead and get that done now. And the stamp sets. The stamp sets that I'm using are from Healing Hugs, the Get Well Soon, and the Dandelion Wishes. And I've been kind of trying to go back and forth between some of the new stuff and some of the stuff that's going to carry over. And so I wanted to go back to the catalog, the current catalog now, and some of the things that are going to carry over. This Dandelion Wishes stamp set is absolutely beautiful. All right, so what we're going to do is grab a little scratch paper here, and I'm using a bunch of inks, and I'm going to ink up my panel here, and then I'm going to ink up the bottom of the inside of the card, and I'm using a blending brush to do that. And the colors that I'm using are Highland Heather, Mango Merlot, Grapefruit Grove, and Coastal Cabana. So I'm going to start with the Coastal Cabana here. And I'm going to go on my panel here. And it's just a matter of getting some of the color. Now you can do it very saturated or you can do it very pale. It really doesn't matter. But just get some color down and in various spots on your card. And this panel isn't very big, so you have to be a little bit careful not to put too much of any one color, or you won't have room for the rest of them. And there's such a pretty combination that you probably want to do that. So I'm going to put another little bit right down here at the bottom, and that'll probably be it for me on that Coastal Cabana. Now over here on this piece, I'm going to put a little bit here, here, and right down here on that. And on these brushes, now if you don't have blending brushes, you can do this easily with a dauber or with sponges or whatever else you do use to sponge color onto your card. Okay, and all you have to do is kind of wipe this stuff off and it's ready to go again. So I'm going to, as I use these, move them out of the way. And so here is my Grapefruit Grove. Who would have thought all of these colors would go so well together? And so I'm going to put a little bit of Grapefruit Grove around on my card. Maybe coming across here. And big chunk of it down here. And maybe a little bit down in this corner. And the same thing here. I'm going to put some here. Maybe some there. And again, maybe down here in the corner. Okay, and then I'm going to wipe that off and move the Grapefruit Grove out of the way. And I'm going to use my Mango Melody, which is just a beautiful color. My goodness, it's gorgeous. And I think if you go softer on it, almost looks like a yellow. But boy, if you put some of that intense color down, that mango color is just beautiful. So I'm going to continue on here, and I'll speed this part up because you have a good idea now what I'm doing. Okay, there I've got some color down, and doesn't that purple just make it? It's amazing to me how adding that last color just kind of brings the whole thing together. Okay, now I'm going to clean up a little bit of my messes here where I went off of my scratch paper. And now we're going to do some stamping. So on this piece, I'm going to do my stamping of my large dandelion first. And I'm going to try and arrange it pretty much the way I've got it on this first card here. So I'm going to put my dandelion here in the black ink. And I'm going to get that to go across my card right up here at the top. And then using these wispy pieces to come across it here in the middle. And then turn my stamp around and get it to come in from this side here. Okay, and then we need one more stamp across the bottom here. There we go. All right. And you know, I didn't add the silver on the inside, but I think I might this time. All right, so let's get this put away. And I'm going to use my heat tool to dry the ink here before I do my embossing. So I will quiet the video while I do that. So now I'm going to use my embossing buddy across the bottom of this inside panel and all across this panel here. So that when I use my VersaMark, I'll just get my silver powder where I want it. Okay, now then I have this little stamp mounted here that's just the little wispy seedlings, and I'm going to bring in my VersaMark paper, my VersaMark ink here, and I'm going to stamp those across my image here, going lots of different directions and filling in pretty much all over. All right, now the same thing with this one. I'm going to try and put some of these little silver pieces here all over this card front, including across the stamped images here. And I'm going to turn my stamp and get them all on here. All right. Now then, I'm going to bring back in my silver embossing powder and a spoon, and I'm going to put some of this silver embossing powder all over . All right, so now once again I'm going to heat set this embossing powder, and I will quiet the video while I get this part done. So there we go. I've got my pieces embossed, and I've got a little extraneous powder on here, but frankly, I kind of like the look. Interesting. Okay, so here we go. There's our two pieces sponged and embossed. Now I have my Get Well Soon stamp here, and I'm going to ink that up in Memento ink and get that inked up really well and put that message on my 2-inch circle here. Now you certainly could do your stamping first and then punch it out so that it's right in the center, but either way works. And there we go. I've got a nice Get Well Soon. And this card that I did here, I sponged the edge in the Highland Heather, and I thought on this one I would try sponging it in the Coastal Cabana, even though it's going to go on a Highland Heather background here. One of the things that I did here that Kelly did also was to use some of this silver thread. And so I've got my silver thread here, and I'm going to take my little piece of tape off that kind of holds it so I can find the end. And I'm going to take actually quite a bit of it, and I'm going to have it go all the way across all 4 fingers here to get kind of a pretty good sized piece of this silver thread. And you can see I'm going around a bunch of times, and then I'm going to clip off my ends here, and I'm going to pull it apart a little bit, and then I'm going to take it and twist it so that it's in more of a figure 8 here. I know this looks a little bit like a hot mess. But what I'm going to do is put 3 glue dots down across the back of my Highland Heather piece here. Oops, my end came off. That's all right. And put my glue dots down here. And then I know oftentimes people put this on the back, but this was a little tough to corral. So I thought it might be interesting to put this on the glue dots between the sentiment and the Highland Heather. So I'm just going to tamp that down into place and get those pieces put on some of that glue dot here on the back, and get my pieces that are a little bit more unruly here under control. And then I'm going to put snail on the back of my sentiment here. And I'm going to just glue that down over my starburst punch here so that we get that thread caught between the two sentiments there. And you can fuss with that a little bit if you like. Then I need a piece of silver. I need a little piece of silver foil here that is 5.5 by 2 1/4. And this piece will go behind this piece and border that piece of color. Isn't that just gorgeous? Gosh, I just love this card. So much fun. And like I said, I'm not sure I would have put all of these colors together, but boy, they look good together when it's all done. So I'm going to just use snail, actually quite a bit of it, on the back of this. Let me see if I can find my silicone mat here. Yes, right here. And put some snail down on the back of this panel here, and put that into place with a similar border on either side, and then bring back my card base here. We have just one other thing to do on the card base, and it's going to require using this large dandelion stamp here. So I'm just going to clean that off a bit. And what we're going to do is use the VersaMark like a watermark. So I'm going to get my VersaMark done here, and what I'm going to do is just stamp in VersaMark here across the card. Now, it doesn't matter that I'm going over this piece more than once, because I just want to make sure I get these little pieces out here. And then if I were going across the card, I would probably have something showing up down here. Now, that is the VersaMark, and normally we would put powder on it and do all of that. And what I'm going to do is just use my heat tool to dry it so that it becomes just a faint watermark on the front of our card. So I'll quiet the video again and heat set the VersaMark. Okay, now you could probably get the same effect by using the Coastal Cabana ink and doing tone on tone. And I'm not too worried about this mess in the middle, because this is a nice big panel that's going to go here on our card and cover all of that. And then our sentiment is going to go over here. So I'm going to go ahead and put this piece down with just snail on the back of our panel here. And put that into place on our card here. And it looks like I may have to trim off a little bit of that on the inside. I do. If anything, cut those panels to be a little bit longer so that you can, in fact, cut off anything that hangs over, and then you get your perfect fit that way. Okay, there we go. And now that panel fits on the front of my card absolutely perfectly. Okay, so now I can just go ahead and put some snail on the back of this card and put that into place on the inside. And you know, I really couldn't be more pleased with this card. It is absolutely stunningly beautiful. Thanks, Kelly. It's a beautiful card. She's got such a sense of color. I wish I had half of the talent she had in putting colors together. All right, so on this one, what we're going to do is raise this one on a couple of dimensionals, and my guess is that 3 will do. And we've got our Get Well sentiment here put in place. There we go. I think that's straight now. And we've got our thread doing its thing here. In fact, I've got one here that's just too unruly for me. I'm going to have to snip it off. Okay, so there we go. That is the project for today. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And thanks to Callie Needham again for the inspiration for this card. I just love it. And I do think that I like the inside better with a little bit of that silver. And the only other thing is a couple of rhinestones on the front here, which I'm going to go ahead and add to this one. And in this case, since there's so much going on over in that corner, I'm going to stick one right up there. I'm going to put one on my sentiment and one down below. And there we go. All right. Let's see, my prize draw for the month of May is a complete set of the clear blocks for mounting your stamps from Stampin' Up. It's a 9-block set, about $70 in the catalog. And let's see, the new catalog, we're just a little under 2 weeks away now, or right at 2 weeks away for the release of the new catalog, and then we can get our hands on more of the things. And if you're a customer of mine, you've already gotten your catalog, or it's in the process of coming to you if you ordered with me in the last 6 months. And if you don't have a demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. Write to me on my website, either www.inkangingenuity.com or www.lbedinger.stampinup.net. There's another email down below, a telephone number, pretty easy to get a hold of. If you don't have a catalog and you'd like to have one, let me know. I'll be happy to send one to you. So again, that's it for me today. I'll be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye.